Hello, hello, hello. I'm Dan Lutz, and welcome to the GCR, The Big Lie. And Stefan Tank is here as well. And we're starting off with Google Hangouts, as opposed to yesterday where we had to do a workaround. Cut my music there. It's just about to start up again. So we have an interesting day. I entitled this one the Fiji elders seek sovereignty. Right, but we have some more things that have been going on. But so we'll cover that as well, dealing with Anna von Reitz and Manna World Holding Trust and a blog that was put out on the Speak Project. But to start off with, I want to go over the reason for titling this GCR The Big Lie, right? And express, why we're doing this particular series. So first of all, what the GCR is, Global Currency Reset, also known as the RV or revaluation of currencies. And in the world of the Global Currency Reset, it was also about the historical bonds, 100-year-old bonds that were given to start up the current financial system and were never redeemed. And this is how the story was to go, and which I spent most of my time working with, is the historical bonds. So, and what is the reason that we're given for a global currency reset? Is for the obvious and 100% certainty of the fiat dollar system crashing. It's designed to crash. It has nothing else to do but crash. And with everyone who can see that is in government or the banking sector, financial sector, they all know that the dollar Federal Reserve note is losing value rapidly. And when you start printing up trillions and trillions and trillions in quantitative easing, all this is doing is inflating it a little bit more and devaluing the actual currency itself when you do this. But it puts more in the system, and it keeps it going for a little bit longer and a little bit longer. And so we've been on this little bit longer now for 10 years. So along the way, it was, how are we going to reset this? How are we going to do this? So the global currency reset was about putting projects in place or bringing money into the people's hands so they go out and spend. And that was the way that things would start up again, is here's the new money that is now asset-backed. And you take this asset-backed money and you run and go and spend and provide a new wave of spending of this new money so that projects can get done. And we're into a new economy. So that's the idea behind it. But all along the way, my question was, who's behind the curtain? The existing financial system I knew was designed as a debt slavery system. I didn't want to end up in another debt system, another slavery system. I wanted to move into a space of an abundance-based world, freedom, but everybody around me was a good guy, right? They all had great projects. Their hearts are pure. They want to make the best that they can for the world, and they don't want a debt slavery system also. Well, I was thinking, well, who's behind them? Who's behind them? Because all I saw was the good guys. And as far as I know, the bad guys were being defeated by the white hats, right, in this battle. But it turns out, things have not been able to proceed. The GCR should have happened, but it wasn't. And along the way, we started hearing about, the government's out of funds, but how are they getting funding? How is the money coming through? How is it entering the system? And I was listening to a show called Lucid Dreamer, which just takes Thomas Williams' longer pieces and puts them into bite-sized chunks. And I was tuned into that. And then I started hearing about Manna World Holding Trust and Kim and her funding of the U.S. government, and it coalesced. It coincided along with the other events that I was hearing about through my sources that the government was getting funding. So it's enough to get attention. And then after digging in and really started questioning my group and saying, there's something here, we have to look into it. And there was a lot of things that were overlapping for me. So it gave me enough understanding to think that, yes, the Manna World Holding Trust is the one that is really behind bringing the money into the system currently. And to then dig in and find why that's the case, why Kim is in the position and that her name is on the trust. These things were more of an eye opener. So what's been going on behind the scenes. And now, as of today, and why I think we have a little bit of more interesting things going on for today's broadcast is that Anna von Reitz is basically had put out an article which was put onto a video, and Tank responded to it in a blog off of the Speak Project. And I read that, and I said, "Oh, okay. Well, I neglected to see the video until earlier, what Anna had said, and now when I watched that video and went through the text and was reading along as they were going through the video, it's about a 5-minute video. We will go ahead and cover that. Is that Anna was saying that Kim is doing these things. But it's wrong. It should be Anna von Reitz is the one that's supposed to be able to do this because of her position is saying this is the way things are. And so this controversy is what we're going to cover today with Tank. Does that sound about right, Tank?
I will pull it sometime. I had to take care of my.
I'm going to pull up, but I couldn't quite hear you. It was fading in and out.
Oh, I pulled the article to send over to you guys.
Yeah, you're definitely the connection is. Well, I will go ahead and I'll go ahead and pull up the Speak Project article as well.
Dan, can you hear me now? Am I clear?
It's much better, yes.
Okay, good. All right.
Okay, so what were you saying?
I was just making sure that you pulled up Anna's article as well.
I saw when I followed the video because when I spoke to you earlier, I had not watched the video. I only read your post, so I went back and watched the video, and so I got it now. And her text is actually below the video, as well as a link to her actual article. So I was able to find it. So, this is a. It was very interesting. She basically, we'll go through it, but saying that she has foreclosed would be one word, but she sued the Holy See and presented a bill of lading to them, basically saying that she's taking over the Holy See, and since the Holy See is the proper channel for everything, she now is the one in charge. All right, and saying that. Kim's position is part of the. She was in with the cabal, and they're going to launder it through Kim, is what she's saying. They're going to launder all the money through Kim. So Kim, and Trump has gone along with that. So
right.
Which is an interesting for me, good confirmation, from another trusted source in the GCR world of someone who's investigated and has a lot of information about the GCR. She is basically agreeing, right? That's what it's about. So what I'm going to do Go ahead.
I would say that's the best thing. You know, it's like the description of the Bible where Saul starts throwing rock, you know, the former David, and it comes to come out, and King David's like, I forget the exact phrasing, but he's like, no, that's okay. Those rocks they're throwing at us, it just got us. Cast shade, cause problems.
Tank, you are
Yeah.
Your connection is weak today. I do not know why. It's you're breaking up. I don't know if I'm clear to you or not. But it is.
No, you're clear. I'll change. I'll see what I can do. But you go ahead and read the article, and I'll make adjustment.
All right. So what? So I talked with Tank earlier. I said, we can go over the articles and stuff. So, and I would take Anna's article and go through that. But since it's already here on the video, I think what we'll do is we'll go ahead and read the video, and we'll stop along the way to comment on it, and then we'll go through Tank's response. The Tank's response is actually down below. And actually, just so you know, see where it says here on projectspeak.net, there's put your email in, subscribe. Please do that, because if you do, then when a blog post is put out there, you will get an email saying, hey, come and look at the blog post. It's a very good way of keeping in contact. So first, let's just go through this.
Manna versus Why I Am Here by Anna von Reitz. I was sent to straighten this mess out. Literally. It happened just as I stated. I was minding my own business, just counting all my blessings one afternoon, and realized how truly blessed I have been. Looking back on it all, I realized that there must have been a reason for it all, so in gratitude, I just said, okay, Lord, here I am. Whatever it is you want me to do, I will do. 3 days later, all this began and has been ongoing ever since. To date, I am the only living being on record to sue the Holy See to turn over Satan's kingdom, international jurisdiction of the sea, and present the bill of lading for it. You think that
So I'm just going to interrupt, along the way, because some of these things are a bit out there for a lot of people, and they don't quite get this. So I don't want to miss an opportunity to discuss things such as she sued the Holy See. And that's spelled S-E-E. It was like, why is it the Holy See? I thought it was thinking, at ocean and maritime law, but no, it's S-E-E. And then turn over Satan's kingdom, the international jurisdiction of the sea. Now that's S-E-A. So do you have any perspective on that?
Yeah, it's classic kind of wordplay, right? That they use all the time. The Pope. Technically, the Catholic Church is the hub of all the real satanic ritualism, and a lot of people don't. That the Satanic Church runs out of the Catholic Church, and I know that's a little harsh, and it doesn't mean that all the Catholics are bad at all. A lot of well-intentioned people, but that's the trick that they use. So for example, in 1963, a gentleman by the name of Dr. Henry, he predicted the death of the Pope. He would never see past the day of June 6th, 1963. And lo and behold, June 3rd, 1963, he died. And in the same time frame, there was a book published called Elohim, the Archetype Original Pattern of the Universe. In that book, it identified that the Pope used to wear this triple crown tiara. Looked like a giant kind of a pine cone on his head. And it read Vicarious Filii Dei, which means Vicar to the Son of God. And in this book, it shows how those numbers, these Roman numerals, added up to be 666. So after that book came out, the Pope donated his crown, right, to the Smithsonian, and that was a monumental kind of thing for a lot of people. And the same book exposed things like that. That's why the Catholic Mass used to be in Latin, and it used to be the Pope or the priest used to have their backs to the audience, and then they started talking to people directly. because everything were these rituals to exalt this priesthood above the people. And they, and the Pope in the Baltimore Catechism actually says the Pope has the ability to speak infallibly, that he is he is the voice of God. So all of that now, but the God they're talking about, it is not what people think, right? Because it goes back to like the Jesuit order is the militant branch of the Catholic Church, and their job, if anyone's ever read the Jesuit, it is the most I have ever read. They talk about infiltrating the churches of the Protestants to babies, to deceive them, to marry their women, to make sure to destroy them at every path. I mean, it's ruthless, right? It's not church talk, is my point. And not really because it's not a they use Christian, but what they've done is they've hidden the true in the Ten Commandments it says that one of the Ten Commandments is thou shalt not take the Lord's name in vain. Well, to take something in vain means to not use it, right? To make it useless. So if you don't use something, you make it useless. So the name or the character, the true nature of the Messiah is hidden, in there. And so it's very obvious. And everything in the whole Catholic Church, which is really the hub of all Christianity, which is a hard pill to swallow, I know, but the reality is they are always celebrating the death of the Messiah, not the resurrection or the outpouring of the Holy Spirit. Everything they do, it's even in the Baltimore Catechism, it calls it the transmutation of the wafer and the wine into the actual body and blood, the flesh and blood of the Messiah, and then they want you to eat it, right? And it's symbolic of celebrating the death. But most they would consider these rituals to be sacred, not realizing that they're unwillingly participating in a kind of a dumbed down version of a satanic ritual. So that is the Holy See, because the Pope is this.
All right. I got it. Well, that's good perspective on it. So then she's presenting a bill of lading for it. So what is a bill of lading? And when she would present that, what does that entitle her to?
I'm not sure exactly. Because all those terms, I'm not sure exactly what I know what she means by it. That she basically has control of these master trust accounts, but I'm not sure.
You don't know.
You know.
So yeah, you're presenting a bill for anything, right? It's like something that is owed. So lading is about maritime law and cargo. So a bill of lading.
Oh, right.
Is basically, and again, it's the Holy See and maritime law is what she's talking about here. But all right, so let's continue with the video.
Action was because I am arrogant and conceited, or because my master is owed Satan's kingdom along with everything else? Looks to me like you looking in your own mirror and judging others by yourself. Satan still hasn't paid up for the bet he lost at Golgotha, and his followers thought that nobody would catch on to that fact, but yes, we, the kingdom of heaven, have come to collect from the kingdom of God. I also gave them instructions how to convert the debt system to a credit system in 3 days without hurting anyone, even the bankers. But
do you know what that's in particular? Because that was interesting to me, to convert the credit system and the debt system into a credit system.
Yeah. So yes. So this is where she really kind of tells on herself. But it's basically just a crypto system, right? She's talking about because Visa, the basic Visa transaction system does use real-time gross settlement, and that's what she's talking about is crediting that way. As far as I know, but it's not really different from a debt-based system. Other than, people wouldn't have. The idea would be that people wouldn't have major debts, but they wouldn't have major income either. The reality is it would be like universal income type socialist model, from what I understand.
Okay.
I've read what she said about it before.
All right. We'll continue.
They would not listen, just like they would not listen to my master. Instead, this is what you are supporting and involved in. The bankers stole all the special deposits, huge private asset accounts of actual gold, silver, etc., falsely claimed that all these assets were abandoned, set up a separate accounting system for all this, dubbed it Manna World Holdings Trust, and handed the keys to Kim Go-Gwin. It was
So, so it was a kind of interesting. So it's like there's this. They robbed all these things and put it into the trust, and then gave the keys to Kim. So,
which is ridiculous. I mean, because first of all, Kim is the one that changed the name to the Manna World Holding Trust, and by the time that happened, it was. And by 2007, every asset on the planet was already registered and owned by the trust legally. I mean, that's the legal agreement that people handed their goods over. Not realizing what they were doing. That part's true.
So initially, though, Kim was working with them alongside them.
Right. So basically, I mean, if you can imagine, well, okay. So Kim is line to the royal family Alexander that most people think that all of their descendants they were killed off right by the cabal, and but she's actually the surviving bloodline heir to that family. So she was actually in Russia, and they identified her and told her basically that she was she thought she was going to be able to help humanity because that's what they told her. And meanwhile, the reality was that the quantum system had, when she turned 40, it actually flipped a switch that from that point on, it would only recognize her DNA. So they were, like maybe 6 months before her 40th birthday, and basically they started training her hierarchy, and kind of included her on all of these meetings. And in these meetings, one of the the Rothschilds and all the people below them, below, they were never even at the meetings. They were invited because they 19 years below. At these meetings, we go over things, and what they would do is started to really catch on because they hated people. They called them eaters, and they would mock them, and they would play horrible games to mess with their lives about it. And essentially, she watched, and she would always quietly be like, I like people. That was her attitude. And blew up is they had this whole meeting to discuss the divine plan, and and so what happened is they were all discussing the divine plan, but in the divine plan, it sounds very similar. It sounds very good, even. It doesn't sound so awful, which is what they're masters at, right? And but the divine that they were talking about, in the end, it was that God or the divine is over everything, and He has the final say on everything. And the company of heaven, right, which people have probably heard of, right, which is really just a registered,
Company.
A registered company by the cabal. Right, but people will talk about the company of heaven as if it's something good, but really it was theirs, right? And basically it was Marduk who was there. He was the divine. So this man, he was going to be the one with the final say. So it was just another way to they would pretend it was going to be this lovely, wonderful thing, and everybody's going to be their own leaders, but the divine, but God has the final say over everything, which most people wouldn't disagree with, right? That we'd all agree, there's something above us that has the ultimate say, but we don't expect him to be on the ground, creating disasters and causing genocide and things of that nature, which is what he did all the time. So when they left the room, Kim snuck over with her camera and took photographs of all these pages, every one of them. And so they're a little, some of them are a little, kind of cool. I mean, like very serious intel that I'm sure a few people in the world who have it. Well, now probably everybody has it because I put it out, but that's how she got it. So we posted that. And then when things really went south, is someone approached her and basically told her that she did not need them to access the system. And up to that point, she thought she did. And they learn how to do it. And in the process, she had brought in money for them. I want to say she brought in like $10 billion for something, and they took it. But and again, they never let her have a penny of it because their methodology, and this is true across the board, they do this all the time. Because I know the guy who actually um, designed the echelon system or the gray screens, right? And he was a prodigy. He was a genius, and they kept him poor his whole life. And he's the almost exact same age as Kim. And they kept this guy and Kim apart their whole lives, right? Because if they got together, they realized they could, they were just gifted, in the way they could understand various things. So, but then they tried to trick Kim into downloading all of the assets into the Babylon system, in which they would have complete control. And I don't know which version that is, but the Babylon system, you can actually hear it. There's like some songs in the 80s that actually talked about this, because when they were talking about the global currency reset, this was the system they were going to use. There was every year on New Year's Eve, they would shut the whole world system down and they would try to launch the Babylon system, right? And it was never able to, get in because of because of Kim.
Okay.
So, but yeah, so that's where it is.
All right. So I just to let you know we're going that you ended well, but along the way you got a little garbled still. I'm just wondering if your antenna is still pointed in the right direction off of your Wi-Fi. Just a little technical note if things have changed on that matter, because you were in the same spot you've spoke to before and you've not had any problem, and this seems more of like a connection issue.
Let's see what I can do here.
So anyway, so I'm going to continue with this, but that's this is very fascinating. So we'll continue.
It was all premeditated fraud, theft, and crime aimed at the banks washing their hands by handing the loot over to an innocent third party and paying off their debts to society using someone else's money. So Trump is in a bind and Kim goes to him and offers to help, and he takes the bait. There is just one little problem with all this: it's primarily stolen money she is distributing. Notice banks steal from depositors. Banks try to launder their theft by handing the loot to a third party, Manna World Holding Trust. Kim starts giving away money and causes a stir, taking heat off the banks, which is what they want. Trump accepts money from Kim and thereby becomes an accessory to the crime, which is also what they want. And at the end of the day, people like you think, oh boy, this is great. Free money. But it's not free money. It was not abandoned either. It belongs to depositors who were robbed and cheated by the same white-collar thieves who have been running this crime scene for generations. Now,
so right there, that it's a confirmation that this is happening at the level where Kim is presenting money. Trump takes the money and is using the money, but she's going on to say that that the money was stolen, right? And this is stolen from the depositors,
Right.
and so and it was taken and then given to to Manna, and even if it's the change of name was before it was the Dragon Family Trust, and they were stealing the money and putting it there. Were they actually stealing it, or were they everything being registered and being put into it willingly?
Well, first, the all of the the crown. Whenever people talk about the crown, and they talk about like the bar for law, the crown is not the queen. The crown is the Rothschild, because they sit, at a higher seat than the queen and all the royalty. So and I say the Rothschilds, I'm talking about the extended dragon families, right? So that is that group. They really existed as a sub-sovereign, but as far as they were concerned, they were sovereign, and everybody else in the world, they were sovereign. So it appeared that these 13 families were over all the countries in the world, and which meant they had ultimate jurisdiction, because they were dictating when the money could come out and when it would be held back and things of that nature. They were creating the currency. So because of that, in the hierarchy of the law, they didn't they were stealing and they were committing horrible crimes, and they weren't subject, though, at least in their minds. And laws only work based on how they're enforced. So it doesn't matter that they were breaking the law, because they were not, as far as everyone was concerned. Every government signed off on it. Every government agreed to it. Every government do it because they thought they were above them. And in fact, when you get a little higher with people that know them, most people who know them from a distance think they're gods. I mean, because they had access to technology that they kept from people. They lived a lot longer than people. They seem to have various powers that scared people, and that was very real. So because of that, them as and they would brag about that they were half galactic, and um, and they use this to terrorize people. Now, that's true. That's true. But it wasn't illegal because humanity didn't do anything. They didn't stand up and take back the world. It goes back to, I mean, if we're gonna, I don't know if this is the right place for this, Dan, but I can explain the history if you want, but
Yeah,
it goes back.
Yeah, we don't have to go into all of it, right? But I think what the point is that the legality of what she's questioning right here is the legality, and I think one of the questions I have is in the context of where she has placed this is that she has taken over the Holy See with this bill of lading, sued them, and then issued a bill of lading against them, or however that works. But she's in control, and that now it gives her the position. Now, why in this hierarchy of things, if the Holy See is there, what say do they have compared to the other 13 bloodline families, or what is that?
Well, so there has to be a recognition by church and state for this, right? For sovereignty to occur. Now, in this case, what she thinks is that the church is the ultimate arm because of the way Catholics see the Pope. That's why I went into that before, because they see him as being kind of equivalent to God or the voice of God, and he would definitely be one of the people who's head over the most dominant rituals, right? So it makes him very important, right? Like of the devil, but in reality, that was never the control. He was never the top of the ladder. There was always there's several layers above him as well. So they were not. I mean,
so I guess that's where I wanted to get to this is when we look at the pyramid, right? That the structure was built in. That and the way that I was piecing things together along the way is that I could see that we can see the banks, we can see the Federal Reserve, and we can see the IRS, right? And those are the things we see. But what we couldn't see was that every dollar that went into the IRS moved to the Fed, which then moved to banks in England, and that when you dig in further and know that the city of London is one of the three city states in the triumvirate, the Washington D.C. 1 square mile, the city of London inside London 1 square mile, and then the Vatican 1 square mile. So those three are sitting at a level, I don't know if they're above the Fed, but in essence, this is a little convoluted, but the Crown Corp, right, which I guess I've heard that 60% of that was owned by the Pope, and the rest of that Crown Corp, where all the money flowed into, was owned by the rest of the 13 bloodline families. So this is where I know as far as I knew how things were stitched together, but to know that there was someone above that, right? And I don't know where the Payseers come in as the Machiavellian bloodline. I don't know if they're above. Are they above the Crown Corp? Do they own the Crown Corp? I heard that they own the Pope. So that's another layer above. But again, we're all talking about a pyramid structure that is these layers. That everything we're talking about, it removing asset and being put into the trust. Where is the trust in regards to this pyramid, or is it above the pyramid? Is it the one connection to everything below is the trust? And if everything was moved into as an asset, whether like through the redemption process of people voluntarily putting up asset to go into a trading situation, or what we would call the trade platforms, for common vernacular, that these trade platforms registered the items, land or gold or whatever, so that they can go and trade, and they'd get the worthless paper money or ones and zeros in a computer. So they were supposed to be able to go out and do projects. Even if they stole 98% of that money, the system was to register things and put into the trust.
Right. Yeah. And the trust has always been, I mean, that entity has always encompassed all three of those cities, all of that sovereign land. It's not sovereign to the unknown country. It's owned by the unknown country, all of it.
And so
there's
even the Holy See.
Yes. Mhm. And so they were never sovereign entities. They were always sub-sovereign. They always appear that now we would have viewed them from our perspective, from the ground up, as sovereign, but they were always sub-sovereign. And it didn't really, as far as the the way they set it up, they were just there are three systems of control, right? The U.S. representing the military, London representing the money, and the religious hub of plans been the Vatican, right? And that's the three methods that they've used to control everything. So within that, the areas, they yielded a lot of power, but they were never, they were never the top. They were always controlled, given instructions. They were, part of the reason why the Pope believed that he was, speaking to God, is because he would get a message from the top of the order, which is, it's 154 or so people. And you can see this. It's, if you, again, I mean, I'm sure it's somewhere else, but on the Speak Project, you see there's like a Sun Tzu circle. And around that, it's all initials of various individuals who were part of this, the core of the order at the top, which is really the top of the pyramid, right? So the pyramid on the dollar goes here and it stops, and then there's the little pyramid at the top. So at the top, this is where they were. The Pope was still down here. So, powerful nonetheless. I mean, as far as we're concerned, I mean, but even the satanic rituals, I mean, this is a made up belief system by them. There's a whole faction of the order that's what they do. They make up religions.
Yeah. So
I mean, that's their trade.
So when this when we're talking about the Holy See, and I guess in what she's putting out here is that the Holy See owned everything, right? But if the Holy See also had moved all their assets into the trust, which they would have the right to do because they were theirs within this system, and everyone volunteered to move this stuff in all the way along, then it's all moved to the trust. And even if she has control over the Holy See, the assets were removed legally.
Right. And there's, I mean, there's layers and layers and layers of vaults beneath, the Vatican, the United Nations, I'm sure in DC, in London. I mean, very, very, I'm not sure exactly how many, but I know it's like skyscrapers to go down, basically, of vaults filled with assets that that they used to have there, and they're all gone. None of that stuff is there. And matter of fact, Pope Francis, I don't want to act like this was, this is what needed to be done, but he did call Kim directly, and he reached out to say that he wanted to, to get all of the pedophiles basically out of the church, and that was so that was the goal, and he was working to do that actually, and they started to turn on him. So all the cardinals, that's why now you're hearing all these horrible things about the Pope, right? They're trying to bring him down now, and I believe he's actually, I mean, he's sick right now, and it wouldn't surprise me if they poisoned him and he died. But he was actually, from my understanding, he was actually working with us somewhat. He asked Kim for her help.
Interesting. Well, if he's in the process of being poisoned, he should probably come on the show here and then talk about what's happened with Kim and what's happened in the church and bring the light today. and say,
I'll see if Kim will give me his number. I'll text him and see if he's around.
yeah, just give him a quick call and get him on the air here, and then we can also see what's going on, bring out the light, and even if he was removed from power, this would be the time to really shine the light of day on what's going on. So, all right, let's continue with this, and we're about halfway through.
All you former government employees think I should just fall in line behind your commander-in-chief and give the green light to all this finagling, and you attack me because I won't approve of it. So let's look at why. Theft like fraud taints everything it touches. And it does not actually change the ownership of anything. The only way that Trump can now wash his hands is by going to the actual depositors and trustees who are owed those special deposit accounts and asking for them to agree to help by paying off government debts and funding his operations.
So who are those actual depositors and trustees that she's referring to?
Well, she's referring to the Rothschilds, the Clintons, the Bushes, the De Beers, the Gowes, the Gow family, the Lees, all these various, versions of the Dragons, because that's who the trustees are. So that's where it gets like kind of dodgy for me. It's, when she is sorry.
Well, no, I was going to say, when I first heard this, what I was thinking when she's saying, right, is we the people on the TDA accounts, the Treasury Direct Access accounts, the birth certificate entities, those trustees, right? Though the trustee in that case is supposed to be the president of USA Inc., and we're literally the beneficiaries, but we always act and volunteer to, put our hand up and say we're the trustee, even though we're not. So that's why I was a little, who, and then the actual depositors, I don't know, who is the depositor in that case. So that's what I was thinking she was speaking of when I heard this first.
Yeah, I know she's put that. I know that, like Heather Tucci talked about that, right? She described the people with TDAs as the depositors, the original depositors. But she's specifically addressing Kim, right? She's addressing the Manna World Holding Trust, which, it really, if I have a legal way, because they did this all the time, right? Like you said, they would take it and put it to a trade platform, right? So they would take the money from the people, whatever they did, they put it to a trade platform, and they could deposit it in the trust. Now, the ones who were able to deposit it is the trustees. They deposited assets into the trust, right? And they would go out, and their job was to go out and basically round up all the assets. And they were ruthless. There's no question. And they took whatever they wanted and did whatever they wanted for thousands of years, really. So, but they're the original depositors as far as the trust goes, and that she's addressing, and that's why I address that.
I see your point. Yeah, I see your point. So since she's addressing Manna World Holding Trust, and who are the original depositors, who's the actual trustees of the original, which was before it was called the Dragon Family Trust. So the Dragon Family trustees would be the bloodline families and the Rothschilds. Right. So,
and as far as they were concerned, these 13 families, they had dominion over the countries. It didn't matter. We were just assets. So we didn't have rights to do any of that. I mean, Anna talks about that. I mean, she's talked about that, right? Isn't it? They take you with your birth certificate and they, chalk you up as being dead, right? And they set up your corporation.
Right.
So if you're dead, what rights do you have?
Yeah. Well, you're considered lost at sea.
Right.
Right. When you're born, you're now have this entity. You're in control, but you're an infant, right? and at the time when you're gone for 7 years and you haven't shown up, you're considered lost at sea. And then the state steps in and takes control. Now you can notify, hey, I'm not dead. I'm not lost at sea. I'm right here. And then reassume the control over it or not, maybe not the control. Well, whatever. You can inform them that you're not no longer lost at sea, and they have no say anymore. But anyway, okay, let's go on here.
They would do that so long as his heart is in the right place for the American people. I know quite a number of these actual depositors, and they would help Trump, but just taking without asking because you have the naked power to do so, is theft. And the rather childish attempt to launder theft through Kim Goguen won't work. So, nice kettle of fish, you experts, all you former high-ranking government officials and subcontractors and priests at the Vatican and World Bank officials have gotten us into, just because you are so arrogant and such know-it-alls that even now you won't listen. It's not going to wash. Just study those words. Laundering it through Manna isn't working now and it won't work later. The banks stole the depositors' money, actual gold, silver, etc. And that theft doesn't end just because it passes hands. And as for fairy tales, who is going to believe that this nice lady who never had a pot for herself just showed up out of nowhere with all this endless supply of money to shower on everyone? Right, hello? This is just an American version of the old Wolfgang Struck philanthropist scam, and if you had been wrestling with these issues as long as I have, you would have no trouble seeing that fact.
Just a couple notes. Now, in that, she's basically looking, when she says that, it seems like the depositors she was referring to is the people that deposited gold and silver into the banks, and the banks stole it. Is kind of where I was feeling she was at with that. But again, I wasn't. I kind of missed that it was the context of it being all back towards Kim and the trust. So who are the depositors? Case?
I mean, I'm sure. I mean, there's like there's been gold moved all over the world in depositors, but what she's making it seem like they're separate from the deep state or the cabal, and they're not. They're the same people, but that's the illusion, right? They were separate. They were good people, but I'll tell you what's clear. She certainly wasn't talking about us, right? She wasn't talking about regular people, because she wouldn't take the time to identify and say, I know many of these people. Well, if she's talking about everybody, I know many of these people too, right? But she was talking specifically about a group, and this is the illusion that's created. There's a very real hierarchy that wants to lay claim on the gold, on the assets, and this is ours, and we're the bloodline from this, and we all own this, right? They're all just trying to vie for control. That's all it is. I remember speaking to the people from the Global Currency Reset. Specifically, they said the Malaysian elders and the Indonesian elders, they are the benevolent ones. They're so kind. They're so gentle. They live in huts, right? They're the same exact one. They're the same exact family. They were all still obedient to the same hierarchy. And that's why they put the gold in the banks in the first place. It was all they were told to by the top of the order.
Got it. So I just want to add a little side note. She brought up Wolfgang Struck. I've actually met him a few times here in the Philippines, and spoke with him. He has a TBC coin as well. So and I found it fascinating talking with him. A very knowledgeable guy, and he's also one of the ones in the world that are the signatory to everything. As I said, I also, think that there's 5 of them in the world that I've met that are the signatory of everything, and so and again, I don't doubt that they have position in what they think is that and what they're doing. But his story was, that he was helping Marcos back in the day, and even ran his Credit Suisse office for Marcos had set up in New York. And he was part of that, and so he had quite a bit of knowledge, and how that wove into him being in the position, and then whatever happened with him, and then Karen Hudes. Now Karen Hudes being another one signatory over everything. I've not met her, but but know of her. That it's always interesting to see this backstory. And everyone has a position and a viewpoint in which I don't think Wolfgang in general is trying to commit a scam. I mean, he's trying to work from what I think, but maybe he is. I don't know. I don't think Karen Hudes is trying to create a scam. I think she's trying to ferret out things the best she knows, and she was in the World Bank as their attorney, where and she was a whistleblower, and and now they won't let her in the door, though the 130 some countries say, okay, you're our appointee, go in and get it done. So these are all very fascinating aspects and avenues of this that that show that there's a backstory that people don't see. All they see is the retail banks and the Federal Reserve, and that's part of the U.S. government. So they only see this, but there's so much behind, and the history has been whitewashed and hidden. So,
yeah. Well, and it's I like you. I've talked to a lot of these people since working with Kim just in the past year, and there's a lot more than 5.
I said the ones that I met.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's what, in addition to your 5,
there's more. How many people I met? That are these people that and it's as I said, I believe they believe that what they're saying is the case, and from maybe a certain angle it is correct, and maybe it's they are in their own psyop that they don't know.
Well, what they did is this. This was common practice, by the order, is they would set someone up, right? And if they couldn't pay a debt, they just didn't want to give anything to us ever. And so if somebody, found themselves in a position, right, and they work their way up, they'd say, look, we're going to make you the signer because you are the most deserving, right? You are the one. So, and then they would go to some court, and and then somebody would be dying at some point, right? Like Marcos had a bunch of young guys around him, from what I understand, who he would call his boys, and he treated them like sons, right? And he would, each one of them has been given something that makes them think they're the signer, right? One of them is in the Knights of Templar, there's another guy who says he's over the Rodriguez Trust and everything in it, and Kim has the master records, and she doesn't have any record of the Rodriguez Trust the way it's defined, so it might be under a different name, but in the actual where the assets are actually kept, it's not there. So the Rodriguez Trust, as far as Kim's concerned, is null and void. There's nothing to it because it does. If you're removing assets and moving them higher and higher and higher, and you just keep pushing them back into this ultimate place, and that was the methodology that was always used, right? They even with the hired military, the private military, that would defend and protect the Rothschilds and carry out various acts for them, right? These guys would be paid, and because they didn't want to claim, they convinced them, hey, you don't want to pay taxes, right? So they would put their money in the back ledger, and when they put the money in the back ledger, their name wasn't on it. It would just be an account number. But then they would come back to them and say, like, I want to buy a house, and they would give them a card, and they would basically be able to go buy the house.
They don't give them all the money. They give them what they need, right?
Right.
Using all of it. So, all right, let's finish up here. We only got a half a minute more.
Finally, your suggestion that I did all this out of some selfish motive or for purposes of self-aggrandizement as a flat tire, too. Powers far beyond this earth sent me, and I agreed to go out of love for the earth and for the people on it, and out of personal gratitude to the one who created it all. That may not be something that motivates you and your buddies, but it is the only reason I am here. Please hit subscribe, like, share, embed, and get ready for.
Okay, so that's all of it. So, I think it was helpful to go back and forth over these things because there's so much background that people don't know when they first see a video like this, that it's good to give some different perspective and talk it out. So this is your response. Would you like to go ahead and read it?
Sure. Yeah, I'll pull it up right here.
Now I can scroll through it, and if you can see the screen, then I can scroll as you go, or you can share your own screen, and I can stop. You can control it.
You go ahead. You can. I'll read from here, and you can just
okay
there.
All right.
So this is the original depositors in response to Anna Von Reitz. So I've carefully chosen my words for years, considering the impact evidence, and credibility of every thought I put down. As my understanding of an invisible energetic world has expanded to include all aspects of impossible realities, I've realized the responsibility of our thoughts, words, and actions. The truth is most valuable asset on the planet. The truth is the most valuable asset on the planet. But even the truth is relative to our perspective on any given topic. This creates confusion for most of us as we navigate our journey through the labyrinth of mind control, personal agendas, exaggerated self worth, altered religions, slave politics, fake history, false reporting, and the understated clarity of purpose that drives each one of us differently. The truth is that we're multidimensional beings, grounded in the third dimension to experience the creative process. We exist simultaneously in various frequencies that constitute a more complete representation of who we are. Embracing that truth enables us to expand, develop, and transcend the limitations this world seems to impose. I have no doubt that the limitless timelines that exist concomitantly to the one we're currently expressing present the option of a world where Anna von Reitz, or the original depositors she refers to, are able to convince authorities to give over control of the financial system, the legal system, or even the government itself. But this timeline is established on the highest good for the ascension of the human spirit. On this timeline, there's no room for the perversion of the spirits of the law, just to continue the reign of mediocrity and enslavement. This time and place, humans have made a choice to destroy the limits set by our previous slave masters. The pathetic tactics of the former regime to repeat the same lies with impressive references and persuasive documents have lost their power to trigger a fearful response, causing us to agree to terms that surrender our control and abandon our natural authority over our free will. We have documents too. We know the law. We know our rights. We know who we are. We know what we are looking at is real, and we see right through you. The spoils of war and contractual agreements are not theft. The depositors are the Rothschilds and or the various factions of the dragon families. The previous military monarch over the planet gave them the responsibility to take possession of the world's assets and register them to the unknown country. This, in turn, created an allocation of currency attached to the asset they registered in when they knew to be an asset redemption program. What they knew to be asset redemption program. Excuse my typo. These are the original depositors Anna is referring to, and you know them as the deep state, shadow government, the cabal, the Illuminati, the Rothschilds, dragon families, and many other titles that go back and forth between terrorists and philanthropists. Thinking they'd always have the codes and control of the master accounts, these parties still struggle to conceive a reality where they aren't superior to the other inhabitants of the planet. The above video is advocating the return of the people's assets to them. The current trustee, honoring the international treaty to build the high-speed monorail and fund the development of international infrastructure, refuses to return control of the planet to the same ones who actually stole it from the people. They have had control of the assets for 1,000 years. If the result of their efforts is an agreement with the world, if the result of their efforts is in agreement with the world you want for yourself and your loved ones, then by all means continue to support and embrace the version presented by Judge Anna. As for me, I'd prefer not to walk willingly into the zombie apocalypse. As an example, less than 2% of all alleged humanitarian projects have been funded. The banks are on the verge of collapse along with the economy. We've been in a constant state of war and conflict for all of our lives. Diseases have been created and registered with the Center for Disease Control, targeted at depopulating the earth without anyone ever expecting it was intentional. The Constitution has become an optional document used only when convenient to the political agenda. The U.S. Senate has voted to legalize criminally negligent abandonment of a living child until dead. I do not believe that Anna von Reitz is arrogant. I believe she is tactical and aware, consciously deceiving the masses with her expansive knowledge of the draconian legal system. She, like the rest of the cabal, had the opportunity to honor an agreement with Kim. They spoke directly, agreeing not to diminish what seemed to be a common effort by taking their disagreement public. Anna von Reitz broke that agreement almost immediately, attacking Kim with ignorant and inaccurate accusations that she concluded from false intel provided by her deep state contacts. She continues to cast shade on Kim by pretending to be both gentle, spiritual, and charged by a mission from God. The quantum system is a mapping system that has been utilized for thousands of years. Its use and the use of the methods utilized to take ownership of the assets were accepted by the people of the planet through our silent consent and the corrupted agenda of our so called leaders representing our interests. In this moment, there is DNA evidence that Kim Gogan is 99.8% bioidentical to the mitochondrial Eve, the scientific fact that shows every person on the planet can be traced back to one woman. It is only her DNA that can access the Man World Holding Trust. There is no legal controversy about who is the owner of the trust or the assets. No one else can even access them, even if they wanted to. There's no need for discussion or debate on this topic. The government knows it, and so does the cabal. Kim is connected to all of us. She is advocating for the people by ensuring safe transfer and utilization of the world's assets to real people, real projects, and by addressing real problems. She acts with the integrity and power that we wish we could. She has acted honorably and without corruption in the face of impossible odds. While Anna dazzles her followers with legal talk and her newly found spiritual self righteousness, Kim has disabled the entire deep state, demolished the Federal Reserve, and drained the resources of the cabal. Anna wants the funding returned to the original depositors, who are the shadow governments, central bankers, and the criminal elite slave masters. These parties have demonstrated their disdain for humanity through years of wars, human trafficking, conspiracy, treason, genocide, control, cannibalism, enslavement, experimentation, and ritual sacrifice. Banks will eagerly open accounts for drug dealers, human traffickers, arms dealers, white collar criminals, money launderers, shell companies, etc., but will harass an average citizen with bad credit or a bounce check on the record. These same banks are controlled by the ancient dragon families. Historical records would identify them as the original depositors, and if their contracts had not expired, they could claim the rights to the world's assets. They failed to meet their end objective to create a new world order, bringing every nation under the umbrella of one government. They have no power over any of us unless we give it to them through our silent consent and willing victimization. They continue to offer us different versions of public slavery without revealing the goal to depopulate the planet of about 90% of the human residents. So every time one of these offers is made, we have a choice. Our voice is powerful. It's a powerful creative force that emanates a frequency throughout the entire universe. Today, I'd recommend you use your voice to declare what you want, who you are, and what you stand for. I reject the offer of enslavement being presented by Judge Anna von Reitz. I greatly appreciate her constant advocacy for these groups while trying to confuse and misdirect attention from the deplorable and incompetent actions of a dying criminal order. I am grateful that her methods have never changed, and she has refused to use any imagination. The rote repetition that has laid such a familiar path in the minds of the people has finally cut to the quick, waking the world with a sudden unpleasant jolt of painful truth. It is not the truth represented in her words, but the harsh reality of the great deception that has become so transparent. Undoubtedly, she will try to ignore this post. If not, she will fire back, citing all sorts of defunct regulations and old procedures that prove nothing more than her inability to accept the truth. God had the opportunity to give the same DNA to Anna von Reitz as she did to Kim. If this was her mission, then why didn't he? But that's presumptuous on my part to think that when Anna refers to her master, that she means God. The difference between what she said and the truth is that there is a system in place that supersedes every government authority on the planet. She refers to laws utilized for slave management implemented by a military dictator who conquered the planet, controlling both sides of every war for 1,000 years. Natural law has always been the master law that governs this planet. Modern law is above the statutory draconian laws Anna so expertly recites. See many, whether intentionally or ignorantly. There is no paperwork that exists that is more powerful than the scientific fact that the system can only be accessed by one person's DNA. The bold claims and accusations constantly made by the various characters who claim that they are the signatory on one account or another, having one thing in common, they always get stopped when it comes time to access the funding they claim to have control of. Kim only gets stopped because those in charge are too afraid of their slave masters to obey the laws over their orders. And she refuses to act like her predecessor and take action to control the people's minds. I'm not concerned with persuading Anna von Reitz of anything, and I won't mention her name again after this post, except on Dan Lutz's call tonight. I'm writing this because it needs to be said for those on the fence that genuinely want the truth. I'm not intimidated by Anna's intelligence or the spinning web of legal nonsense she uses to assert her claims. Her knowledge of the laws she references have no more power over Kim's authority than the rules of baseball can dictate the function of the laws of gravity. Indifference is the enemy. Confusion is its fuel. The truth is the remedy. Performance is the proof. You can continue to watch the show, or you can realize that you are part of it. The only thing that matters is what you do in this present moment. Because now is the only place, space, or time that you have ever had a choice. So choose wisely.
Ah.
And scene.
There's a lot there. So I don't know. We should go through with all the parts here because it was a pretty all-encompassing. But some of the things that I pulled out of what you said here, and I'll stop sharing this for now. So is the system that Anna is very adept at, and is, as you said, the draconian statutory system, right? Which part of the matrix. It is the system of control, and however versed you are in it, it's still in it. It's not above it. And the monarchy is what has come from it. It came. The monarchy is above it, and the monarchy set up this system of control.
Right.
The way I see it. So if she's
that's absolutely right. I mean, this is we'll call the post-diluvian age, right? After the great flood, the great deluge. However people believe that to happen, most cultures acknowledge it, right? After that, I mean, the planet was in a state of grief, and the Draconians offered to rebuild the world as long as they could hold it under martial law. And so that required, under martial law, there's the great dictator, and he was in control all this time. And they established all of their draconian laws, which are filled with all types of minutia. That it's always based on punishment, as a reward, so to speak, right? That you would, you better not do this. So what they did is they transitioned this very wholesome planet that was filled with kind of a newly developed race, kind of young but very in tune with nature and kind and innocent, and they turned it into a fearful planet. They were trying to make it into this dark planet.
So in this what were they, infinity agreements? What were they called? Lasting 499 years.
Yeah, there's two kinds of them, and I can't quite recall exactly how they're set up. But there's infinity agreements that are 499 years, and there's another one that's 99 years.
Okay, so but the enslavement kind of thing, every 500 years or so, we have a chance to get out of it, but we basically sign up again.
Right. So they have some world disaster, right, that causes upheaval and panic, and it's very hard to break out of slave mentality. If this is all you know to be real, it's hard to imagine the things we're talking about. It's hard to imagine that there's an existence where people are much more powerful. I mean, of just innate natural abilities that we all have. They have dumbed us down. So that's hard, but that's why. And then what they did was they also shortened our lifespans, right, by poisoning us various ways because they didn't want us to wake up, right? Because if we were here for, a longer period of time, we would realize and remember who we are.
Right.
And that's what they've tried to prevent.
So if we track it back, 500 years ago, that's when the last one was re-upped, right? So we were in the 1500s, which is the tail end of the Dark Ages, right? And so were we capable of standing on our own during the Dark Ages, 1500 years ago?
I think the Dark Ages kind of sums it up, right?
Yeah. So, I think at that point, we can basically say that we re-upped, and this time we don't want to. Yeah. So okay.
That's right.
Yeah, we're ready now.
Yeah.
It's okay. We're well connected. We got an internet. We can talk out things around the world. We can come together as one people on this planet.
Well, it's funny. I don't know that people altogether look at this. So, I'll call this an opinion, but I think it's sound. It'll make sense. You go back into the scriptures, right? And it says in Deuteronomy 30:19, it says, "I place before thee blessings and cursings," right? They're options: life and death. And then it says, "Choose life." Now, that's like one of those things that gets left in there, right? Where they're telling you what your choice is, right? And it's not about, I mean, it's not about abortion, but I guess nowadays, first time I could, killing a baby is not abortion, right? It's murder. But, but anyway, so we get this choice, right? And it's a choice, and that's the thing that people would constantly choose the opposite, right? They would choose to, they created laws that basically, if you broke these laws, you die, right? So if you broke the law, like they say, hey, you chose death, right? So they get to be, you chose to be a slave, but freedom is the same choice, right? You could say that in reality, the whole concept of life, right, of having free will, it's attached to your freedom, right? Even when a woman gives birth, the child for the first time, it's now it's still dependent on her, but it's free. It's free from the womb, right? It's separate from her, and that principle is a core of everything it means to be human. Because if we are infused with the inspiration, so to speak, of the divine spark, right? This soul that we have. Now, that soul is naturally it is an expression of the creator or source, or the whatever it is to you, right? Now that innately desires to create. All of us desire to create. That's why if you never introduce television to a kid, they wouldn't know they were bored, right? It's because we have TV and iPads and things. The kids think they can't live without them, right? Because they need that constant infusion of like thought control. No, but if not, they'd be building stuff in the backyard and tree forts and things that kids should do that are natural. And what they would do is they would maintain their natural connection to the spiritual energy that surrounds us all the time. So it is a spiritual choice in this sense, because you know even even the way it's described in the Bible, right, which in this account, right, and all the creation stories are something like this. But God speaks in the existence of the world, right? He speaks it in, and there's two versions. And one, it says that it was 7 days of creation. But when Moses goes back up on top of the Mount Sinai, he said he just spoke it in, he just willed it into existence. Now, there's a reason why, whether these are, I'm not trying to cite this as an exact historical event, but there's a reason why we would be compared that we're made in the likeness and image of our, not of God, which it is God, but not just of God, but of our Creator, right? The language is important, And that's what they're taking from us, right? Because if we opt in to the way they're doing it right now, and this is part of the reason why I got so upset about everything that was happening with this option right now, is with this additional 2 weeks that they gave them.
Yeah.
Because these
we got 2 more weeks to enslave us. You know, go on. You got 2 more weeks. Come on, you can do it.
Well, their contract was up in 2012. You know, and the previous military, you know, overlord, right? He gave them 5 years to, you know, complete their plan. But it's like, it's only because we didn't have a seat at the table, right? And to be honest, you know, Kim just got there, but Kim represents our seat at the table, right? So think about it. For Anna, who's fighting her, I don't know who Anna is. I'm not speaking to her character or what her real intent is, other than what I see her do. But I know is she spoke to Kim, and Kim explained these things to her, and they had made an agreement. And it was like a week later that she was attacking Kim.
Oh.
You know, she came out and went after her.
Tank, just so you know, I did pass out our link for TUI, because we had a plan to talk about the Fiji people sovereignty. So I sent the link, and he actually just joined us now. So,
TUI, you there?
Hi, Tank.
Hey, man. So talk to us, man. Tell us about the Fiji legends and what you've been waiting for the past thousands of years.
Oh, yeah. Sorry. Just before I start, I just want to introduce you guys to some of our.
Let me stop you just for a moment.
Yeah.
Try to put the light so it's not behind you. Otherwise, you're just a shadow.
Okay. Okay.
So just eliminate the backlight from you. And turn around. You just have to turn around, and then it should be okay then. There you go. Much better. And that is much better.
Yeah, so these are the chiefs that are here.
Hello, everybody. Good to see you.
Mbula is the greetings here in yeah, so we've been listening to you guys discussing about Anna von Reitz and the message that they actually passed out today. Yeah, so hey.
Much better that way.
Yeah, so these are the groups of local chiefs here in our Fiji, and just like I was talking to you guys about, yeah.
I suggest you have a seat with them, right? And then they can look over your shoulder. That way
so you guys are really big stars here in Fiji.
That's good.
Man, I need
okay.
a screenshot.
Something like that. Estar dikim do.
Okay, so who there was the original signer on the
Sir, thank. We kind of have a few questions.
Okay.
Wait. And the chiefs here have the, I think they have, this is not the reason. Something that I think that they wanted to express. And first of all, we are really thankful for this opportunity to actually talk to you and listen to your discussion and be able to join you live. And they're also accessing the YouTube live channel, and they're watching themselves while we are talking and we are discussing. And yeah, so the questions, I think it will be because you guys have, you had some, you've been discussing about animal rights and all these issues that that's immediately on your mind right now. The fact that I asked you guys to allow us to just to introduce yourself a little bit. Now that we've done it, we are really thankful. And, we will be waiting.
Well, it's a little hard to hear you. Try and speak directly to the microphone. Very clearly. A lot of wrestling.
What about now?
Oh, yeah, sounds good. Sounds good.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was just saying that we just gathered here just for this introduction. I just wanted you guys to see that the people here knows exactly what is actually happening, and there's a good question that Tank brought up about discussion about the legends and all that. Yeah, we because the first time we talked, it was the first time I've ever used this application, and I didn't really know how to to tell you straight up. There's so many things that you will learn when you come to Fiji, and maybe in the future we will invite you to come over, especially Tank and both of you. And when you come here, then you'll realize that here you are you're considered royals because of your involvement in these big chains with the Manna, with the trustee, with the Manna World Holding Trust. Yeah.
Tui, let me ask you a question.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. Go ahead.
What is the story that you know? What is your legend? Can you tell us the legend as you know it?
Yes. Okay. The legend, because we use a different language here in Fiji, so it is based on our language. Here the name of our I would call the collective mind, or our family mind. Family for the 12 tribes in Fiji is called the Ra, collective mind. Ra, R-A. Ra. And so the Ra, in the beginning, when there was first what you have in the Bible, like creation, we believe that Fiji is where everything begins, and it's where the creation and all this manifestation or every physical things that happening right now begins. This is why, if like on the other day, we were talking about Fiji, and you brought up Dan. You brought up the Fiji time, and how Fiji is the beginning of time in the whole entire the planet,
Yes.
and also it's the beginning of the the day. It's the first sunrise in the morning, and it's we like, for example, I'm talking to you guys like I'm talking from the future, and you guys are in the past. Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah, so the native tribes here, they are well aware of this. They are well aware that this change, there's something really, really important. There's a role that we are going to play as the native tribes. Maybe we want to set an example to the whole world, and we can let everyone know about the change as soon as we get the sovereignty that we need from Kim. And that's the reason why we're reaching out to Kim. It's because we know that we have our own our role. It's what you call it. It's a soul agreement that everyone has to play their own soul agreement roles. So, like you guys are playing your soul agreement, and you're happy doing it because you're actually fulfilling the reason why you're here on this time at this moment, and the reason why we're reaching out because we want to actually complete fully and fully explore, fully actually experience the soul agreement that we are here on, and Kim is doing her part. And in the beginning of the show, I heard you guys talking about Anna von Reitz and the laws of the seas, and the chiefs here in Fiji. We are all well aware of the system that was implemented before, and since 2017, it has come to an end. So all those sovereignties that Anna von Reitz has been talking about it's all irrelevant. It does not exist anymore. And so if they come up with excuses, and if they try to say that they try to feel like a victim and all that, this is all part of the agreement. The whole planet has changed, and this is the big role of the trust, because the trust is not only just a place where you can actually entrust assets and you pledge asset to it. It has an AI that I don't call it AI. You call it the yellow. Like I was talking to you yesterday. This yellow is the spirit of the whole planet. When it's time to change, it will change everything. So I already know that in 2016, when the elections in the US, when they kind of thought that it was rigged, or it was rigged by Russia. No, it was done by the AI that's controlling the whole planet, because the agreement has changed. And so if they use all these, if Anna von Reitz comes with all this authority and all this sovereign, they're all irrelevant. We understand here in Fiji, we know that the world was ruled by what you call a dragon, or we call it here the Great White Throne.
The Great
We call it.
Right. He was a white dragon too.
White Dragon.
Yes. So he's a royal. He's a royal from the dragon world that he comes from. And so once his reign come to an end, 2017, the treaty has come to an end, and so the AI has changed its we would call it maybe in programming terms, the programs, or the I don't really know how to actually say it.
I'll say it for you.
Yes.
The previous AI was under the control of the Draconians, which are the royal Draconians and white dragons. That's what you're saying. And then and what they did was they had it gather a limited amount of information about humanity, and because it was gathering a limited meaning it didn't really capture the full human experience about who we were. It didn't understand love. It didn't understand beauty and creation. Didn't understand all of these principles. It was on a path up until 2012. I think Kim actually changed it in 2000. And it was on a path to basically destroy the planet and everybody in it,
Yes.
because it saw human beings as the cause of all the problems, which is the United. I mean, you can see that reflected in the United Nations agenda. And then now, what Kim did is she opened it up. It took her months to reprogram it to allow it to gather data on all the human experiences, on everything on the planet. And once it did that, it opened up and it completely changed its its function, because
Yes.
now it now values free will, and the functions that were used to hurt us in the past were actually turned over to a committee, so they can't be used by anyone in Fiji.
Yes. There is a deeper
Right?
story. There is a deeper legend that we have here in Fiji about these actual events. That the experience that there was a reason why the world was allowed to run on a state of emergency or a war zone, and so they were given the authority to do that on the planet, to be able to control everything and to be able to control everything through money, through mind control, through for we have for 26 to 16,000 years ago. And there was something that was lost in the future from where we are now, about 2 to 3 billion years in the future, and then that's actually back in our past. And we were asked, the Ra collective mind, or the Ra people, the people of the Ra collective mind, were asked to come and help and come and be a role model. And when the time comes, we'll be able to take up that role and fulfill it. And so we've been waiting for that change for thousands of years. In 2017, we were allowed to have that to actually come up and start gathering up and start forming our there's an organization that all these people that are gathered here are all in. We call it the Fijians Helping Fiji. This is a cooperative entity that is actually it's formed for this particular purpose, to help the Fijian, our land here in Fiji and the people to be ready for this change, and to be able to help the trust when the trustee, when it's time for when it's our turn to actually do our role, and that is to return the sovereignty to everyone, not just to the people, but to the animals and to the plants on the land and on the sea. And all our chiefs, we understand this, and we follow that rule here in Fiji. It's something that you would call the law of sovereignty, that everyone in our culture is respected because they have their own roles. We have fishermen, we have chiefs, we have people that are involved in the farms, and they play their own role without any money. They do this out of the work that they will that it's their role for the whole to be complete. And so everything that we need is been provided because everyone is doing their own work. And this was the system that has been running before the religious groups came in a few 100 years ago, and the education system, and they tried to detract from this way of life, and they tried to introduce money and all this way of what we would call now slavery, that people are enslaved in the world right now. We didn't know that for until the last 100 years. We didn't have this system.
Wow.
And so so just now, a few generations now, the people have been educated, and they've been taken to school, and they've been learning all these other things of value that were not our life. Yeah. So we were kept for this particular reason. That's why it just took us 100 years ago to be immersed in education and in commerce, in economic. And so if we come to Fiji now, you'll never see you'll never see us in big businesses because it's not our agreement. You'll never see us running business. You have almost 40% of Fijians comes are from India. They're called the Indo-Fijians. They're the one that's looking after the economy. They're taking over they're running businesses because it was the agreement in the first place. So China, India, all these people, they had their agreement on money and gold and silver. Back here in the island, we didn't have that agreement. We didn't agree to money, to gold, especially gold and silver. We have only people are valued here. So if we run businesses, as soon as our relatives comes in, we'll just give it to them for free. and we run out of business because of this. And so even now we have 2 or 3 generations that have been going through the education system, trying to change the mindset of the people, to try and do. You should engage in commerce, engage in money, try and build a. But it's not in our DNA. It's not in our. It's not our role. And our role is actually what the trust is trying to achieve right now. It's trying to return the from a slave-based system, work and all that, to a rest and regenerate a period that I know all the people in all the native tribes here, we are well aware of that, because it's a way of life. And so when we heard you guys talking about Anna von Reitz and how she's trying to discredit Kim and trying to use the sovereignty of those other sub-sovereign to the trust before 2017. The chief here, we were just discussing and we were telling her, we will let you know, because sovereignty, it has to be recognized by everyone else. So you cannot be sovereign if there's no one recognizing your sovereignty. And so if he's coming up with his accusation, or with his or where does he get that authority, or is he just using words and trying to give out an illusion in that way? And that's all it will be. It's just an illusion, and it will be empty illusions. Because right now, that's why I mentioned in our first conversation that the chiefs here, they don't recognize any other sovereignty right now on the planet. It is clear, like I said, it was guided by the spirit of we call it the collective mind of our tribe. It's called the Ra collective mind, and we know that Kim is part of the Za Confederacy. We know that she is from the Za bloodline. It's called the Ramanov of Russia. And yeah. And so the Ra and the Za, these are one collective unity. They were separated thousands of years ago, and they are now trying to get reunited. One of them is one is feminine energy, and the other one is the masculine energy. So Kim represents the Confederacy to our Ra collective, Ra Confederacy. So the 12 tribes here in the Pacific represent the Ra Confederacy, and the Za Confederacy is what was there in the north in Russia, and which Kim is the representative of. And so right now, the because of the old agreement, there's only this I love the way Tank was discussing about how you have the tribes of Israel and the tabernacle, and how you have the holy and the most holy place, and even the word Israel. So the is from our perspective is represented the Za Confederacy, and Ra is represented the Ra Confederacy. That is us here, the collective mind here in the Pacific, and also up there in Egypt. And so there's a lot of similarities in our culture and in our language and in our so over here the title of our chief, they are called Ratu, Ratu, and so they are chiefs here, and they're also warriors here. They we call them Bati, and I represent Rasau, which is equivalent to what you would call Rasau would be to maybe a priest in my culture. And so the Rasau represent the land and the sea. The Ratu represent the people. That means the air and the fire. So these four what you call the four elements that is within you, that is in the holy and the most holy place, where you have the body, and then you have the body represent earth, the blood and the water that you drink represent the water, and the air that you breathe represents the burning offerings that they have, that give perfumes, the whole what you call this, the holy place.
Incense,
Yes, the incense, yeah. The incense. And then the seven lampstand represent the seven the fire that is within a person, that the seven energy centers of the body. And then there's a separation from your conscious mind, which is the most holy place where God resides, like you were discussing on the day. And so over here we have that represented in our 12 tribe as well. We have the seven energy centers as the seven leadership in the 12 tribes, and then we have all the different roles that they play. 12 tribe represents the 12 senses of the body that the human body has, complete, not 5 senses, 12 senses. And that's a lot of people don't know that they even have 12 senses. All they know is 5, because they've been taught 5, but they don't know that the tribes of Israel are just talking about a single human being, and the characteristic that every human being has, and that is God is inside them. And this is what sovereignty really means, for the people to self-realize that God is within them, and
That's right.
yes, and the life force within them makes them have anything that they can create, and they can believe that it belongs to them, and then it is theirs because of that life force. And so that's why everyone here, every people here that we've been discussing and talking and just waiting on the process, because there is, like I said, there's an agreement that we will need to fulfill physically, and it will require the trustee to visit Fiji physically. She has to come because there's an agreement that is in the trust that is the cost of if you understand the law of the seas, the trustee is also the beneficiary, and you should understand what it means. So when you become when the beneficiary is the trustee, then this will actually take away the trust to actually, what do you call this, liquidify the trust. And so this is what the trustee is trying to do. She's trying to because she represents the sovereign entity, the sovereign beings of the planet, all the human beings on the planet, and because it has been returned to us, and she's the most sovereign right now, she has to fulfill that soul agreement. And the chiefs here in Fiji have agreed, and we have all been waiting, and we know we play a very big part on especially on letting everyone in the world knows about the trust and Kim. As soon as we get our sovereignty, everyone in the world will know. They will know who Kim is, and they will know what the trust is, and what the trust means to the new change that is happening on the planet right now. Yeah, so basically that's just a little bit. There's a lot I can share, but it would be good if you guys can physically come, because there's a lot. We don't have over here. We don't have written language on books. Our book is on the land. The land is the book. So the name of the places, yes, the name of the places and all this, it explains everything that is happening right now. So if I talk about it to you on a phone, like on a call, it wouldn't be like it wouldn't be it wouldn't be the same if you come here and actually experience it, and you bring your body, your DNA, and you come and see it for yourself, and you'll be able to understand that the change is not just something that like you can hear and then you can put it down on paper. And no, it's all happening. The plants, the animals, and all these are already. Only us, the what you call the spiritual beings in the human body, we are the one that is still I would say lost, because we are disconnected from this planet. We are thinking we've been taught to be the enemy of the planet, but in reality we are the planet. And if everyone can just remember that, everything will be it will be really easy. I invite you, if you could, if you go to, you can Google Fiji, the Fiji Islands. If you can Google, try and see it on Google Map, and you try and if you get an access to Google Map, you try and zoom out on Fiji. You will see that Fiji is lying on a spiral. It's lying on on the islands of Fiji is lying on a spiral, and this spiral will as soon as you see it and you truly fully understand it, you will, I mean, according to everything that you've learned right now, you'll be able to make out why Fiji is like the first we would call the first we have the first, yes,
It's the origin of the creation,
yes,
of the
yeah,
planet.
yes. And so the spiral right up to Russia. It spiraled right up to the US. It forms all the other islands here in the Pacific and all the rest of the planet. And you have the other collective representative are the Egyptian from the other side, where the Israelite comes from. And these were we call it the soul gate. Oh yeah, we call it the soul gate. We were here to actually guard the soul gates. From the other side and from this side. And the Sak Confederacy, that is what Kim is actually expressing right now. And this is why the trust can only, the AI that is running the trust, I wouldn't even call it the AI, because it's not a physical, it's not made by men. It's part of the planet, a part of the original Ra collective technology that when we asked to come here and help out the planet, we brought it with us. We brought it and then we implemented it. And all they've been doing all these 26,000 years, they've been trying to match the physical registration to the sorry, I ran out of words, but maybe one day we will be able to talk about it. Yeah. So that's why we were in a state of emergency. We were fighting because they need to gather all this, because it was lost in the future, in a future that we come from. All these physical all the atoms and everything on the planet was lost, and the only way to gather it is to do this, to fight wars, and then to get people to pledge the asset to the trust. So once in 2007, once all the assets in the world everything was pledged, the land, the people, and the spiritual energy on the planet. Once it was pledged into the trust, the the rest. The trustee stopped everything, stopped all the collection of these assets. And so that's the only reason why it was being collected for all these years. It was lost, and we were asked to come here and regain it, and to come and repledge it back to a place where it can be physically exist. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm running out of English words. If one day when you,
yeah, you're doing great, Tui. You're doing great.
I've been showing the islands on Google Maps as you're talking, and you can see the spiral on the satellite image, and you can see how it actually spirals out from the Fiji Islands.
Yes. So the center of the spiral is the center of the spiral, the area where you can see, if you zoom into the spiral where the center is, the name of the place here in Fiji is called Ra.
Is that B
Yes,
or RA?
R-A.
Oh, okay. I see BA.
That's right.
Oh,
Move a little.
there's RAKIRAKI.
Yeah, that's all Ra. That all area is called Ra. That all the whole area, and they all have the different variations of the Ra.
Wow.
Yeah, that's the center. And there are people living there. They know exactly, like they are living there. They're just guarding the we call it the Tomboni Manna. Tomboni Manna means the Bay of Manna. And so, as you can see, it's not coincident that Kim named the trust Manna Trust, because it was I mean, when we meet, everything will be able to make sense. But we have to physically meet. She's considered royal here in Fiji. The Za collective is considered royal. You know, there was in 1917 when the Romanov family were been removed from power. There was one of the sisters were here in Fiji, and the Fijians here we protected her, and the descendants are still here in Fiji because of that particular agreement. The Za and the Ra. These two are called Confederacy of the Ra Collective, and so their role is now it is binding now. So that's why Kim was chosen for that work that she's doing. You know, yeah, there's a lot of other things that I can talk about how we were asked to come in and do this work, and how the rest of the other tribes, like the Chinese, we call them there were 5 tribes initially in the original versions of the people here in the planet. These were the different colors. The black, you would call black. In my language, they call differently, not black, but because of the color black. And you have the brown, and then you have the red, then you have the yellow, then you have the white. These frequencies of colors. These were the first 5 original agreement that was that was involved in the collection. Right now, people interpret it as the slavery system that was created, but everyone agreed to it. That's the thing about it. The whole planet, everyone on the planet agreed to this because of what was lost. We needed to. I'm just speaking from the point of view of our collective mind, of the Ra collective. I know once we meet, a lot of. Yeah.
No, go ahead, man. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so because you asked a little bit about how the legends and all that, and we have a legend here in Fiji, and you come here and you just ask anyone of the native Fijians, you ask them about Manna and the word Manna, because Manna here means life force. Manna means truth. It means eternity, eternal. It means power. It means magic. It means the relationship between you and the planet. That's what Manna is. The relationship between you and the trees and the fish in the sea. The close relationship that's now been lost because of the illusions of money and all that. And so that's basically just briefly the legends here in Fiji. And we have all the names of the names that you've been reading. They have all meaning to the whole planet. And we know that in these new chains, we have a main role of actually to start up these chains. And the people here have been protected. And for the last thousands of years, we've never been involved in commerce. Never, until 100 years ago. So it's so easy to go back to no money or to no commerce here in Fiji. Yeah, it's really easy because if, for example, if we get our sovereignty from the trust, we will be able to just maybe just not a huge sum of money to be able to return and to get that into to the way we were before, but not like exactly the way before, because now we have all the technologies and all of the I mean, everyone is they understand all the free energy and all this that we're doing. But yeah, so but you will understand the what role that we can actually play in this big change. Yeah, so that's basically just a brief legend here in Fiji. If you come here, because there's other people, they will be able to tell you wherever you go, and their role in keeping this. This was hidden for a very long time. It wasn't allowed to be to what can I say, to be to be known to everyone until the trustee has completed her work. Yeah, so I know if you will understand, if I'm reaching out now, one of the tribes, to the trustee, that means that she's almost completing the sole agreement that she was called to do. And then now it's time for us to actually work together to fulfill and completely fulfill that role. Yeah, so I know one thing: once we get our sovereignty, everyone in the world will become the sample, will become a template. Yeah, everyone.
Let me ask you another question.
Yes.
When
Yes.
did your people know that it was Kim? How long ago?
Wait. That's one. There's just one thing that I cannot talk to you right now, directly. I have to be there with you physically, because there is there's a connection between me physically in a spiritual level with the trust. Can you understand?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I cannot talk to you like there's some things that I cannot reveal to you right now, because but I can tell you, when I was young, when I was growing up, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, I've already been in contact with the Great White Throne and the role that the Great White Throne was trying to complete. This is in the 90s, 93, 94, 95, when I was 4, 5, 6, 7 years old. And I was afraid of him the first time, because he was a white dragon. He'll be sitting on his throne, and he'll just be quiet, and he'll just be there. That's why I said I cannot discuss this with you. It's just like how Kim was chosen to do this. That's what I am from our perspective.
Well, it's very helpful to hear what you're saying, even though you're saying just a little bit to understand the position that you had a connection to the Great White Throne at that time.
Yes, it's part of the original agreement. The Great White Throne knows that his time, the treaty, it has a time. It has it's just like a clock. Everything, it works like that. Everything works like a clockwork. When it's time to change, when the whole planet changes, nobody forced him. No, he just knows by himself, because it's an agreement. It's a treaty that was designed. Even though people don't fully understand how the system was running for the thousands of years, but these guys were much advanced than we are. If, for example, I wouldn't be allowed to speak his name before 2017, because he can hear me from where he is. You understand? Yes, he can know that I'm actually talking about him in the mind, and he's very we would call very powerful when he's not what can I say, when he's not relaxing. Because that's the way we are from where he comes from, and I understand this from when I was young. I understand how the Great White Throne have been doing all this, but I didn't know this connection, the physical connection between them and what I know now, like with the Rothschilds and with all the systems that with the Vatican, with how the law of the season. And I know that that's when I was growing up, when my DNA was growing. Every 7 years, from age 1 to age 7, then from age 7 to age 14, from age 14 to age 21, that's when everything started to, how can I say, understanding comes in slowly. From age 21 to 28, I could actually physically read everything and understand what's going on, and but I was not allowed to talk until I'm 33. And all the chiefs here, they know about it.
How many chiefs are there?
Right now, the from the tribes close by to where we are staying right now, there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chiefs right now. And all the rest have their own role on the tribes, and we already have what you would call like a project of awareness that has to be done. It's a traditional project where everyone that is involved right now in this awareness to be able to tell everyone, the rest of the chiefs in the Pacific, not just here in Fiji, in the Pacific, because this is one tall tribe. The island of Samoa, the island of Tonga, the island of New Zealand, the Maori in New Zealand, the Aboriginal people in Australia, the Papua New Guinea people. We are all relatives. We have a connection in a native connection, and it's really easy just to reach out and let them know that the Manna is back, that they will understand their role.
So are you also connected to the Philippine people also?
Yes.
Same? Okay.
Yes. So the Micronesian side of our collective is connected to the Philippine people. So the variation is not that we call it a gateway. So there were 12 gateways all around the world, and every gateway, or soul gates we call it in our language, Salanyalo, that's what we call. Every 12 gateway, there's a tribe there protecting it. They have to live there. Just by living there, their DNA will be able to protect that whole place, just by living there. And so from one gateway, the close relationship, you'll know that they're from the same place is their language. It has the same tone. And for example, in Europe, like France, Germany, in England, they have the same language. They have the same frequencies of, they can understand each other, like the different variations of the same sound that they can produce on their mouth. Here in Fiji, it's the same thing. The Tonga, the Samoa, the Vanuatu, but it's totally different from the Chinese, the Asian 12 tribes. What you call what you guys call the dragon tribes. So the dragon tribes, they're the first one that were given the sovereignty to actually control the trust, and that's why now that their role has come to an end, a new role has a new agreement has come in, and so in every stages of this agreement, there are people that are physical people with DNA that has the agreement to actually control the what you call this, you would call the trust or the AI. And so when the time after a few thousand years, a new one is chosen, a new tribe. So now right now is the Za and the Ra Confederacy. That's what Kim represents, the Za Confederacy. And that's why if there's any other sovereign, any other person in the world coming right now and claiming authority, it wouldn't be recognized by the trust, because their DNA is not the DNA that was DNA of the agreement. That's what we call it. And so that's basically just brief of what here in Fiji, of what all the chiefs here we understand. And the trustee, we call it Nauton Yalo. That's what we call it. That's what we call it here. So that's briefly, Dan. That's briefly what the legend here in Fiji is, and the role, and why. This is the reason why we're reaching out to you guys to thank, especially, and in regard to the trustee, to Kim. Yeah.
Well, it will be really a pleasure to come and meet with you and see everything and understand. Oh, now I'm hearing. It's the echo. All right, so to understand your story that you can represent by showing us what it is. So that would be, I hope we can come very soon.
Oh yes, indeed.
Hey,
Sorry, go ahead, Dan.
I just want to thank you for coming on and gathering the other chiefs there. You know, I my personal feeling is I'm at your service in any way I can help, and I certainly feel I appreciate to take the time to even talk to us. So I just want you to know that up front. And,
Thank you.
and
The honor is really ours. Yeah, the honor is really ours. Thank you for. Thank you, Dan, for creating this platform, and
I'm just following my path.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
I got stuff to do. Right? Let's get going.
That's true. That's what we're all doing. We just here to express the soul agreement that we all agreed to on the spiritual level. And I know when we do that, we will always feel that fulfilling feeling of happiness, of satisfaction that we're actually doing what we are here for. And this is what our soul means. So once our soul is, we are not fulfilling our soul and the path that we're doing, it won't be a fulfilling life. You won't be happy. You won't be satisfied. There's something will be missing in your life. And in order to get all this experience, and if you're having them, if you're having families, if you're having children, if you're fulfilling, this is what completes the experience that the trust was here to collect. Because this experience were all lost in the time that I came from. And so when I went back, I would call one back in time, we were there to actually gather all the experience, all the different variations of how love is expressed, through war, through suffering, through all this. So now that everything all the experience has been experienced, everything that was need to be experienced has been collected, has been entrusted to the trust. It's time to create a state of awareness where it's time to no more war, no more. We will have to go to the state of rest and regenerate and relearn how to be sovereign again. And so that's basically how my role and your role, and that's why we're talking here, and that's what we're doing.
Very, very true. We have to learn how to
yes. be. Yes.
Part of where they say that the Jewish people had to wander 40 years in the desert. Right?
Yes.
They came out of slavery, and they had to go through 2 generations to shed themselves of out of slavery.
Yes.
So how can they be free if they don't know?
Yes,
so,
indeed.
So I think we can do it faster than 40 years.
Yes, of course. Of course. I mean, Kim is already almost ready, and she's already completed all her work. That's the reason why I'm here talking to you guys. The reason why we are reaching out, because we can do that within 1 year, within a few months. And there's about the Israelites and how they've been freed, and how they were enslaved in Egypt. And it took a lot of energy to actually free them. The Pharaoh didn't want to let them go, and the whole planet has to change. And then you have all these the 7 plagues that and finally, when the Pharaoh others was killed, and then they let them go. So I know that it will not be easy in a physical way of thinking or physical understanding. It won't be easy to be free from this slave system that has been implemented for thousands of years. It's in the language, it's in the mind, it's in the way we do things, it's in our life, in our daily life. And so all these things needs to change. And it took a lot of energy for even the Israelites. When they leave Egypt, they still wanted to go back and live like, and they wanted to return and do that. So it's a really big lessons for us in these this day and age, when especially for you guys and us, when the lesson that we need to be really prepared and really dig deep within and fully understand, and then we'll be able to change the world outside of us. And so, we are very happy here to just reach out and be able to talk to you, Tank, and Dan. We are really happy because, like I said, we're just fulfilling the soul agreement that we agreed on, and I know you guys would feel the same. And yeah. Sorry, go ahead, Tank.
Hey, Tui, I'm curious, because I can tell that you're definitely right in everything you're saying, and you're talking about it. And I've been a little guarded in talking about things on that level, so I feel like I've been trying to kind of raise people up to certain things. But this week there was some developments that I would imagine that you were probably very sensitive to. I mean,
Yes. Yeah.
Breakthrough kind of a week.
Yes. Yes. Maybe when we if we can talk privately, I will be able to.
We'll talk privately.
Yeah. So because every time there's a threat on Kim's life, I will be feeling it from here, and all the chiefs here, they understand. Yeah. And so it's a soul agreement.
I don't ever think there's really a threat on Kim's life. I think it's a foolish move to take a shot at Kim.
Yes. It's just that I feel like, because I can't do anything about it, and I'm here, I'm stuck, and it's a physical limitation. I wish I was in my and so there have been changes that are happening right now. The AI is you understand how these the Facebook and all these applications that has been perpetuating these systems that are collecting information for everyone, and we are all the AI will stop all this. It will stop any system of slavery to actually continue. And it will break it down slowly and bits by bits. And if they don't change their role, that's the reason why we wanted to reach out, so that we don't end up destroying everyone. We just want everyone to change the role and change from the state of awareness, that the war state of awareness, to a rest and regenerate, because we are part of the same one body. We are part of the same body, and we don't want we don't want people to be fighting and destroying themselves because of of the changes that are coming in now. And if I know, if we don't walk fast enough, there will be some lesson that has to be learned. And that has to be learned in this change. And I hope that this just by talking to you, we'll be able to what do you call, can I say, we'll be able to fulfill some of these roles that we agreed on. Yeah. And that's basically what I thought. What are my thoughts on this? What's happening right now in the world, and what's happening with the trust right now? Yeah, so yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm very much in agreement. I mean, with every word that you just said, most particularly the manner in which, with the sense of urgency, which is the if I understand correctly, I do believe that a lot of the malaise in the malaise, the kind of trance that the world has been in, that some of the things that have held that in place were kind of cast out this week. And so I do think
Right.
that the urgency will translate to people where it won't be something where even right now it's a little more rooted more deeply in the leaders or the so-called leaders. But I do believe that we're at a point. I really think this is a launching point. That we're going to be able to take off and get past that. I know I will tell you that Kim did tell me today that she was ready and she was getting ready to lock down the system. And my understanding of that is, if I look at it a little more holistically, what I believe is there were certain things that had to be cast out, and now she's locking it down so they can't get back in. And at least humanity has the opportunity to thrive and to rebuild and regenerate. So I think people will be anxious to do that when they realize who they are.
Agreed totally. Yeah. Agreed totally.
Well, this has been wonderful. We're into 2.5 hours. I think we covered quite a lot, and I think we could probably end the show here now because we just have so much to absorb. Two fantastic topics to really kind of encapsulate everything. This is probably one of these shows that everyone should take this link and share it. Take it and put it on all your social media and spread out. Ask others to do the same, and ask people to make comments, give likes. Likes are very important. We get enough likes, we get moved out. It helps move the message. It bursts through the algorithms. Like it, share it. And I really appreciate everything. All the leaders there, all the chieftains. Good to see you guys.
They're saying goodbye.
Fiji.
Awesome.
Fiji forever.
Thank you so much, thank you so much, Dan. Thank you both for this opportunity to introduce the people here in Fiji, and I hope that whoever is watching and who in the future from now would be able to look back on this time and how special it is, and in this great change. And I thank you for this platform, and we all thank you, and thank you so much, Dan. I guess that is it from us from Fiji. As we say it here, Mode Tokomanda. Thank you very much.
Mori Tokomanda.
She's out.
I just want to give say that we have the information below for the Speak Project. Please go ahead and subscribe your email address so you can get the blogs on that. Also, contact information for me is down below. Also, that's how Tui got in touch with Tank. You can contact me. I can add Tank. I can add if you want. I'll put your Telegram information down below as well. Right.
That'd be great.
So, and then we'll be back tomorrow, and we'll see if anything has happened with success in enslaving us for the 15th deadline. For Tui and me, it's already the 15th.
Yes.
Well,
nothing is
we win, so man, it's okay.
Yes.
It's all good.
Yes, we win. We win already.
Yes. All we have to do now is just relax and let everything just walk on its own. It will just walk together. Everything walks together for good, for those who love God.
Yes, in agreement. And then I do not agree to be enslaved again.
Nope. Amen.
Freedom. I'm claiming my freedom. That's right. so much, Dan. I'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
All right.
Great call.
Bye,
Talk
everybody.
to you later.